Hello everyone, my name is Ka. Welcome back to another video. And in this one, I'm going to share a little bit about myself in terms of what I've been doing for the past few years while I haven't been on YouTube. If you don't know, I was on TikTok. I started off being on TikTok since 2021, and I started my TikTok because I actually started up my own art business. I specifically started my art business in January 2021, and honestly, it was a little bit by accident because I was thinking about starting that business for about a few months prior to actually starting it. And I was watching videos like on YouTube on how people start websites, like what domain to use or like where to get like your website name, how to start it. And this was before like there was like a preference of where you would start shops that wasn't like in like Etsy or Shopify. Like those two weren't like really like relevant or popular back in 2021. At least I didn't really hear about them as much. I was looking at all different types of different places to have my website. But yes, starting January 2021, I had my own art business. And typically, what I sold or tried selling to people were art prints, stickers, and miscellaneous clay trinkets that I would make. So, as you can guess from the title, that kind of failed, and I would probably say it was due to lack of planning. I was underprepared, and I should have done a lot more research than what I did because while I was interested for at least a few months prior to opening it up, I don't think I was well informed in how to start it and how to go about it, like with the marketing and where to, advertise to people, who to talk to, how to get my products out there, and what people are actually looking for. I guess I didn't really take into consideration. I just wanted to make art and then just sell it. For anyone that's interested in business, or if you're like a business major, you may know, or based off what I've said so far, you can kind of tell why it didn't really work out. And I'm just here to say, yeah, it didn't really work out, but I'm going to also share some things that people don't really tell you when you want to start like a business, because these are things that I wish I knew basically when I did start my business. So, if you don't know, around 2020 and 2021, like when it was peak COVID years, a lot of people were starting up a lot of, they were starting up a lot of like small businesses, I would say. It was very prevalent on TikTok. There was small business talk that was booming around this time. And it wasn't even just for like art, it was like for stationery or like jewelry or, just other things that weren't like art related. Like a lot of people were making businesses or sharing and creating businesses, starting businesses and advertising them on TikTok. And that's what I did. I started doing that in 2021 around probably like June, July, something like that. And if you know TikTok in 2021, that was very like, how should I say? It was a lot easier to grow on TikTok back then than I would say it is now. Now it's just turned to this whole other thing that I don't really want to talk about. But yeah, it was really like there was a big community of small businesses that were around during that time, and it just felt like, oh, this was easy and everyone was doing it, and a lot of people were getting like a lot of success from it. These were the type of things that were going on in my head, and that was like the biggest thing going on during the time, is that like, oh, start a business, share your business, just create, sell things, and it'll work out. It's basically what the narrative was back then, and it was kind of working, I will admit, for the first 2 years. That's how it was, like, I guess, working out, because I did have a few sales. It was very exciting, very exhilarating. It was like I couldn't even describe to you the like happiness I would feel once I get like a little ding, like someone ordered something, like a sticker or print. It was really nice, and I thought, okay, maybe it is that simple, because I did see like there were occasional sales, but I didn't really think about the longevity of the business, like the cost of the business compared to what you're making and who's actually on your website buying stuff. Because people can tell you all they want, like, oh, starting a business is easy, and then like you just boom on TikTok, and then that's that. But the things that people don't tell you is that you still need a business plan. You still need an audience to cater to when you're making things. And yeah, it's one thing if you already have like an audience, like you yourself are the brand and you're selling merch, then that would be something different because you already established something with people. But when I was on TikTok starting my business, I had nothing. I started from scratch. I didn't even share my YouTube channel on my TikTok. And I just went with the flow. Just started a business and like, forget it. Let's just see how this goes. Let's see if people find out without even advertising in like the right places. If you're a creative and you want to start a business, do not do that. It's not going to work and you're going to be, I would say, a bit frustrated unless you just have like the funds to just throw away and you're just like, I just have it just to have it. It's fine. I'm not worried about anything. Then by all means. But if you're looking to make money from it and you want to invest in something like that, please start having a business plan. It will help you a little better in the long run. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but before I was just creating and hoping that it sells. And mind you, the things I were making, I would say were considered cute. There was nothing that was like a consistent thing though. Like I said before, I had stickers, prints, miscellaneous trinkets. But the thing was, I realized now that I'm not doing my business that there was a lot of inconsistent artwork being shown on the website. And it's one thing to be like a big seller, like say Amazon, where you have all different types of styles that you can choose from, sure. But that's Amazon. It's like you can get anything on there. For the website that I had, it was this is the art that I create. And sometimes on TikTok, I would only like maybe show certain things, but nothing would match each other if I were to be completely honest about that. For example, the prints that I would make, they're usually like environmental prints or like landscape prints, but they were vertical. I thought that would have been a cute idea because typically landscapes are in landscape, but I thought the vertical would give it a little nice change of pace. But the style of it was kind of realistic. And looking back at my other art, like my clay trinkets, they were very cutesy, very cartoony, not at all related to the prints that I was selling. Same with my stickers. They don't carry the same amount of realism or like the painterly style I had with my other, you know, prints that I had. Like the stickers themselves were more illustrative or they have outlines rather than having a softer look like the prints did. At least from my understanding and observation with multiple different businesses that I've seen, somewhat consistent and like successful on TikTok are usually the businesses that are very consistent with their style. And I'm talking specifically like if they're creating things. For example, there's this one creative, and she's also here on YouTube if you want to check her out. Her name is Tammy. She goes by Uncomfy Co. I don't know if she still goes by that on YouTube, but if you look at her stuff, all of her like trinkets that she makes are all in the same style. And even now, when she's doing like coloring pages, they're still in the style of her clay trinkets. Like everything is matching, and I feel like it's a lot more cohesive and it's easier to get multiple things at once because it matches a certain aesthetic. If you are trying to research more about art businesses and what you need to know about like an art business, you may have heard some people say that you need to have a specific style or maybe, you need to have some consistency in what you're actually selling, whether it's a theme or certain things like you're selling that are similar to each other or something along those lines. They're not really saying it to be like, oh, you have to be very specific and strict and you only have to make this one thing over and over again. For example, like maybe you say you want to make like a stapler. I don't know how you would do it, but like let's say you want to make a stapler and you just have the same stapler over and over and over again. Like it's not something like that, but at least like maybe tweak it a little bit, like what you're having so they're all together. Like maybe you have staplers, maybe you have other office supplies, maybe you have, just something that's related to a stapler, I guess I should say, instead of having different things all around and people get confused of what you're actually selling. I also feel like people don't share that usually if you have a lot of different things to sell, yeah, it is options to choose from, but again, it could be a little bit exhausting and overwhelming for people that don't know what they actually want. And I feel like as creatives, we're more inclined to seeing different things because we like to create. So we can understand and empathize with other creators about what they're making. Like, oh, this is cute. Like, oh, this is cute too. Like, we understand because of our artist brains. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to think, like, as a consumer, like, say, if I'm looking at something that's not art related and I'm looking for like a certain thing and there's like just all these certain things that are not related to what I want, and it's like kind of like buying fatigue when looking at like a certain like business that's selling all these different things and you just don't know, so you just click off. That's basically how I interpret how my business has also failed when trying to sell all these different things that I was making, because I was selling like original canvas paintings as well. And there's just a lot of stuff like, yeah, it's nice to have the options, but I don't think that's the right move when you're starting out as a small business. It would make more sense to say if you are like into painting, you have your original paintings for like a very high price because it's the original, and then having prints in different sizes of that same painting but just at a cheaper price because you could make multiples of that same, I guess, piece of art rather than just having the original where only one person can really have. That way, people know exactly what they're getting, they know what the piece is, and if they want cheaper alternatives, there are available if they still want to have a similar art piece in their house or wherever they live. And I feel like that's also a very subtle way to break apart the, I don't say the monotony, but just having the same thing being sold over and over and over again. Like, yeah, it is kind of the same, it's the same type of art, but it's in a different type of, I don't want to say medium, but it's available in a different way that could reach more people. And sometimes, it can be the same with, like, say, stickers. Maybe there's like a character or something that you create and people are very invested in this character. Like maybe it's like an OC, right? And you really spend a lot of time making this OC, giving it like a personality, background, and people are very invested in this character. And then all of a sudden, maybe you just want to make like a little sticker of them, and maybe like they've been following you for a while and they see the sticker and maybe they're attached to who the character is because you've been sharing this whole time of who this character is. I don't know what the probability of that for like how successful that will be, but I do know some people do get invested in other people's OCs. So I'm just putting it out there and it's something to keep in mind. But those are just a few things I just wanted to go over. But ultimately, I'm just going to reiterate, yes, I had an art business. It did fail. However, I have learned a lot for having my business, and I've had it for about 4 years. I officially closed down my website January 2024 because I didn't see myself in that same position that I was in 2021. And I wasn't really happy with the business, and I was having like, or excuse me, I didn't have enough time to upkeep my business since I now work full time, and I was not able to keep up with the cost of the business because it wasn't really making any money. While yes, I still love to create, and I don't think I'll ever really stop creating, I just didn't think at that moment in 2024 that I needed that business. It wasn't for me, and I'm ready to move on to something else, or maybe I just close that chapter of my life. But I would say I did learn a lot from it. Like, it's no joke when you start a business. It isn't just something to have like, haha, so silly, I have this little small business. Like, no, I took that very seriously because it is serious. The money is serious, the cost is serious, and even like, don't even get me started on filing taxes. As a sole proprietor, no. Like, that's a lot of work if you don't know. Like, it's a lot more complicated than you getting your W-2s when you're employed by someone else, but I digress. For those that actually want to start a business, I will say these are the key things I would take away from what I said. One, have a business plan. Who is your audience? What do you want to sell? Does it have a theme? And how does your product aid others or help others? Or why would people want this product? That's something you really have to keep in mind. Like, yes, again, if you want to create something that you want to create, by all means. But it is imperative to think about your audience if you want to be successful, because you can only succeed when you have people that kind of back you up in that way. Because otherwise, if you don't have an audience, you don't necessarily have like a customer. And it's hard to say that, but that's just how it is. Like, people only invest in things that they want, then that they like or need. That is something you really have to hone in on when you're in business. And once you figure that out, then I would start thinking about, okay, how can I make this product relate to the other products that I'm selling, or the other products that I want to show people that is related to the very first one that I made. Something like that, I feel like would work best. But hey, I had the failed art business, so you can take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing what I think and what I've seen and heard other people say, and I am co-signing that these are some things that you should probably take into consideration. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about my business. As of right now, I'm working full time, not even related to art, but I'm still creating. And as of right now, it's more so like when I can take commissions, or now I'm just working on my portfolio for character designing and visual development and that type of stuff. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please comment something that you knew or that you didn't know when you were watching this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up. Maybe ask any questions you have about what I said or anything else you would like me to cover in the comments. I'd greatly appreciate it. But with that being said, I'll see you next time.